Hey guys, welcome to our channel Coders Arcade. In today's video, I am going to talk about data-driven testing in detail. So in our earlier video, we created this resource.robot file that you're seeing right now on your screen. So we created this file for our main topic, which is today's topic, data-driven testing. So this was the part 1 video that I've created earlier in which we created the resource file. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I'll recommend watch that video first and then watch this video because this video is related to the last video, which was the resource.robot file video. So that was the part 1 video. I'll give the link in the description below. And let's begin with the today's topic, which is main data-driven testing. So I have already told you earlier that data-driven testing, we perform the same test case using multiple values, multiple different values in the same test case, and we run it again and again. We run it multiple times. So we are going to do that only in today's video using a dedicated data-driven testing .robot file, and this was the resource.robot file that we have created in our last video. This file we will be using this whole resource file into our today's video for our data driven testing. So let me tell you before on which website we are going to perform data driven test. This is the website on which we are going to perform data driven testing. So this is the admin login.nopcommerce.com. So this is the web page. Here what we are going to do today in this data driven testing, we are going to provide some invalid values into these boxes and we are going to press login. So once we press login, this will show login was unsuccessful. Please correct the errors and try again. No customer account found. So we will be putting all the invalid values in the email and the password box, and then we'll be checking for this login was unsuccessful text to that will be printed onto our screen right here. So if all the data entries are wrong and login was unsuccessful is printed, then our test will be passed and our data driven test will be passed. So let us begin with the today's video. So here in my projects panel, as you can see in the resource directory, I have this resource.robot that we have created. This is the resource.robot. And here in this resource file, we have different keywords that we are going to use onto our today's main file. So let us begin. In my projects panel, as you can see in my resource folder, this is the resource.robot file. Here in my resource directory only, I'm going to create my test case file. So now in this test case file, we are going to write a test case. So let me name this file as DDT1.robot. So data driven test 1.robot, and if I press enter, this will create our main file. So what we are going to do in this file, let me tell you. First of all, we are going to write all our test cases here onto our main DDT1.robot, and we are going to pick all the keywords that we have already created onto our resource file. So let me show you in brief what we were doing in the resource file before we begin writing into our DDT1.robot file. Here in our resource file, we imported the Selenium library. Then in our variable section, we created two variables called URL and browser. In URL, we stored our URL, and here in the browser, we stored our browser. Then instead of writing test cases, we directly jumped onto our keywords, because test case we are going to write today in this DDT1.robot. Here in keyword section, you can see that these are the different keywords that we were created. So opening my browser, we opened the browser, we're gone to this URL and this browser. Using this browser, it is going to maximize the browser window. Then this keyword is for the closing browser. So after our test case is completed, this will close all our browsers. Then this is the backup text that we have created, backup keyword for our URL, and then this one is for inputting the username. This one is for the inputting password, and this one is for clicking onto the login button. This one is for the logout button. This one is for checking if the error message is present or not, and this keyword is for the validation of the successful login. Now I'll go to my DDT1.robot file. Here I'm going to start writing a program. So let us begin writing a program. First of all, in our typical robot file, what are the four sections that are present onto a robot file? The first section is the settings section. The second section is the variable section. The third section is the test cases section, and the last section is the keyword section. Here in our DDT.robot, we are not going to use the variable section because we have already created all the variables in our resource file here. We are just going to refer our resource file and we are going to use everything from that resource file itself. So we are not going to create any variables here right now, and we are going to just write, we're going to just use a setting section, test cases section, and the keyword section. So let's begin. So first of all, in our setting section, we are going to import our library. So for that, we have a keyword called library, and with the 2 tab spaces, I'm going to specify the library that we are going to use. So Selenium library, in this case, we are going to use Selenium library. Then generally we have used only this single command, that is library, Selenium library, till here onto our robot framework series. And but in this case, since we are doing data driven test, it is a little bit complicated, so we are going to use more commands into our setting section. So here, after the library, after we have imported the library, we are going to import our resource file. So for that, what we need to do is, here is our resource file. We need to connect our resource file to our main DDT1.robot file so that we can fetch all the keywords from this file, so that we can use all the keywords that we have created into a resource file into our DDT1.robot file. So let us do that. How we can do that? I'm going to write a resource, and here I'm going to specify the resources. So for specifying the resources file, what I'm going to do is, and here I'm going to write resources, and here in our resource, I'm going to specify the directory where my resources.robot is present. So if I open my projects panel right here, you can see that right now in our robot framework directory, we are into our resources, and the resources.robot file is in our resources directory. So what we need to do is, I'm going to write here dot and /. So this dot / represents that we are in the current directory, which is robot framework. So robot framework is the current directory, so that is being represented by this dot /. And after this dot /, I'm going to specify the name of the directory which I'm working on. So resources, and then / again, and then I'm going to specify the name of the resources file. So again, resources.robot. So this is the resources.robot file. I'm going to close this panel. So this way we have imported our resource file. So we have connected our resources file now. So resources, and then this resources and resources.robot. So how to confirm that we have successfully connected a resource.robot file? If you go into the keyword section, or you can say test cases section, let's say if I use any of the keywords now here. So let's say opening my browser should present. So if I write here opening my browser is there right here. So that means this is successfully fetching opening my browser keyword from this resource.robot file. That means that this command is correct. We have successfully connected our resources file. So suppose if I remove this u from here, and again if I go to test cases and if I write here open, you see that opening my browser is not coming anymore. That means there is something wrong with our resources path. So I'm going to add this u again here, and then if I write here opening my resources, you can see that opening my browser came here again. That means our resources file is successfully connected. Now we'll directly jump onto keyword section right here. So till now in this setting section, we have imported a library which is the Selenium library, and the resources file that we have created before. This is the resource file. We have connected the resource file to this DDT1.robot. Now let us jump directly onto keywords. So now in this keyword section, we are going to write the step once, and in this test case section, we are just going to provide the name of the test case, and we are going to provide the value for both of these fields here. So email and password, we are going to just provide that into our test cases. We are just going to give the data in test cases and name of the test case in the test cases section. But since we are doing the same thing, we are going to specify all the steps, all the steps into the keyword section once, and then we are going to do those steps again and again multiple times in our test cases. So since we are doing invalid data check, so I am going to write here invalid, let's say login. So in this invalid login will be the name of a keyword here. In this keyword, I am going to specify all the steps that we are going to do. And using all these steps, we are just going to specify only the name of the test case and the data that we are going to provide into our test cases section. Let me show you what I'm talking about. First of all, in my invalid login, I'm going to write the steps. So what are the steps here? First, we need to open this site here, right? So to open this web page, we have this keyword called opening my browser in our resources file. So we are not going to write our opening my browser again in this keyword section, because every time we run a test case, this is going to open another browser again and again. We don't want that. We don't want to open our browser again and again in each of the test case. That is why what we are going to do is, in our settings section, there is one command called suit setup. In the suit setup, I'm going to give this opening my browser. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. So paste it here, and there is another command called suit teardown. In a suit teardown, we are going to use this closing all my browsers command right here. So I'm going to paste it here. Now what happens here is, instead of giving opening my browser and closing my browser in the keyword invalid login, what will happen if I give the open my browser in this keyword section right here? So that will be a disaster, because every time a test case is running, it is going to open a new browser again and again in every test case. We don't want that. So here, in why we have written this suit setup and suit teardown right here, we are going to write many test cases inside in this test cases section here. So we are going to write multiple test cases in the test cases section, right? So we don't want that in each of the test cases, when each of the test cases is executed, we don't want each of the test case to open our browser again and again. So instead of that, we are just going to set up our browser once into our suit setup in the beginning. So suit setup, opening my browser. So what this is going to do is, it is going to go to the resource file and it is going to use this command right here. This is going to open the browser. It is going to go to this URL right here, and this this URL will be open into this browser, which is Chrome, and then it is going to maximize the browser window. All of these steps will be performed once before executing all the test cases here. So because we are using multiple test cases, we have set it up once a browser instead of setting up again and again for every test cases. Once all our test cases is done, this closing all my browsers will close. You will execute this keyword right here, closing a browser, and this will close all the browsers. So this is a very important step right here. You need to understand this properly. If you have not understood this step properly, just tell me in the comment section. I'll clear your doubts, but this is one of the main steps that you need to keep in mind. So suit setup, opening my browser. So this is going to set up the browser before going on to our test cases, and this closing browser will be, the suit teardown will be using this closing my browser to close all the browsers after our test case is completed. Now we are going back to our keyword section into our invalid login, and here in the indentation of invalid login, we need to provide the steps, all the steps that we are going to do. So we have already opened a browser. Now we need to start filling up these boxes here. So what are the two fields that we need? So first field is for the email and the second field is for the password. Let us see, in the robot file, we have created inputting username for inputting the email, which is using this username variable, and for inputting password, we have created this keyword called inputting password, and this is using the password variable. So in a DDT1.robot, in the indentation of invalid login, what we are going to do is, I'm going to write here arguments, and here I'm going to write with some two tabs. I'm going to give username, and after two tabs again I'm going to give here password. Why I have done that? I'm telling my test case that there are two fields. First field is the username, which is being used for this email address, which is used for this username for the email address. And the second field is the password field, which is being used by the inputting password for this password filling option. Now, once we have told the test cases, once we have told our program that there are two fields, the first one is the username and the password, we are going to input a password. So for that, I can just directly use the input password, input username here. So if I write here inputting username, this is going to take the inputting username from our resources.robot file right here, and here I'm going to specify the username. And again, I'm going to do the same for the password. So again, inputting password right here, and then I'm going to specify the password here. Now, why I have done this, let me tell you exactly why. We are going to give the name of the test case and the values of these username and password into a test cases section right here. So what this will do is, this line is telling the program that there are two fields. The first one is the username and the second one is the password. And once we give the username and the password, once we specify the username and the password in the test cases section, that username will be picked up by this argument, first argument right here. And this first argument, that username which is fetched from the test cases, will be passed on to this variable right here. So first it will come to this variable, and then it is going to be passed on to this variable. Now, since this variable is using this keyword inputting username, the value for this username will be passed on to a resource file right here into our inputting username keyword. And now that value of the username will be updated here into a resource file. Now again, from this username, the value of the username will be passed on to this username. And since this username is using this command input text and the locator email, the value of the username that we have given onto the test case will be written using this command input text onto this locator, and this will be written here onto this email address box here. I hope you have understood this step properly. Let me clear you one more time. Let me tell you one more time. Whatever value of username will be providing here in the test cases, that value will be updated here onto this first value here, the first argument here, username argument. Now that value will be updated to this username. That value will be passed to this username, and this because this username is using this inputting username keyword, this value of the username from the test cases will be passed to this value here, username value. And here from there, this value of this username will be passed on to this username, this final username variable. And because this variable is written with the input text with the locator, what this input text will do is, it will print the value of this username using this locator to this box here. I hope you have understood this. Same thing is happening for the password. Whatever password which we will be providing in the test cases section, first that password will be gone onto this value, this variable here, and from there it is going to be passed to this variable right here. And again, just because this password is using this inputting password keyword from the resource file, that value of the password will be passed on to this keyword right here. And this password, the value of the password will be updated to this variable, and from this variable, the final value of the password will be passed on to this variable right here. And now this variable is having the password that we have written onto this test cases section. And just because it is using this input text and the locator, it is going to print the value of password to this password box here. So this is what we are doing onto our invalid login keyword. So these are the steps we are doing here onto our invalid login keyword. So after we have inputted the password, the username and the password, we are going to click onto this login button right here. So for that, again, we have the keyword called click login button onto a resource file. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to write here, paste here, click login button. So once a username and password is entered, it is going to click onto the login button. And just because we are testing this for invalid data, it should check for the error message. This error message, login was unsuccessful. So again, for that, we have already created a keyword called error message should be visible. It will check the page should contain login was unsuccessful. If this login was unsuccessful is present onto the page, this is going to this whole test case will be passed. So again, I'm just going to write here error message should be visible. So this way we have completed our invalid login keyword. So as you can see here, in our settings section, we have given a library, Selenium library. Then we have connected a resource file right here. Then we have set it up our browser first time, and then we have used this close browser to close the browser after a test case is completed. These are the steps that we are going to perform again and again. So instead of writing it again and again, I have written it in one invalid login, and these steps will be performed every time we change the value of the username and password in every test cases. So we are going to write multiple test cases here, and all those multiple test cases will be performing this same step again and again to fill the username and the password. That is why we have written this invalid login once, and now this has made writing a test cases very easier, because we are just going to give the name of the test cases and the value of the test cases here, and automatically all the steps will be performed for each of the test cases, and we won't have to write again all these test cases. Okay, so in our test cases now, we are going to just write the name of the test cases, and we'll be providing only the values that we are going to do in that particular test case. Let me show you. I'll go to my Chrome here. Now you have to think, what are the possible combinations of wrong email address and password? I mean to say, what are the possible combinations when you will get this login is unsuccessful? You need to think of that. So example, you have given the correct email address but the wrong password. This is the one combination. And the second combination is that you have given the wrong email and the right password. This is the second combination of getting this message. Third combination will be we have given a right email but empty password. Fourth combination will be for empty email and right password. Fifth combination will be of wrong email and wrong password. So these are the 5 combinations we'll be getting this login was unsuccessful. So this is what we are going to perform into a test cases. So these are the 5 combinations and the 5 test cases that we are going to perform. So I'll go back to my PyCharm, and inside a test cases, what we need to do is first we need to write the name of our test cases. So again, you can write here TC1 or TC2 or like that, again till T5 for our 5 combinations. But if you want to write something meaningful, what you can do is here, first of all, I'm going to write user name and wrong PWD, let's say wrong password. So this will be a first combination. Second combination will be wrong user but right PWD. So these are the 2 combinations. So these are the 2 name of the test cases. And let me tell you before that, into our test cases name, into our name of the test cases section, we are going to give 2 tabs space, and here we are going to give the 2 fields. We are going to specify the 2 fields which are present for each of the data. So what are the fields? First one is the username and the second one is the password. So again, I'm using 2 tab spaces between the username and the password right here. So these are the 2 fields that we are going to use. So for right user, wrong password, I'm going to give 1 tab space, and we are going to give the username just below the username that we have written here. So what is the correct username? In this case, admin@yourstore.com is the correct username. So I'm going to copy this. I'll go back to my PyCharm, and here I'm going to paste it. So we have written the right username, but now we need to give the wrong password. So password here in this case is admin, but we need to give the wrong password, so I can just write here XYZ. So this is the wrong password. I'll just organize it in a better way. So it looks nice, and just below username, our username is present, and just below password, our password is present. So this first combination contains right user, which is this right username, and a wrong password, which is wrong password. Again, in a second combination as well, it says wrong user and right password. So I'm just going to copy this again, and I'm going to make some changes in our username. Let's say adm@user-yourstore.com. So this is wrong username, and right now it says right password. So right password is admin. So this is the right password. This is the second combination, or we can say the second test case here in this case. So this is one test case, and this is second test case. So this is what I meant by multiple test cases. So here I have written two test cases in the test cases section, and this is the name of the test case, the name of the first test case, and this is the values that we are going to provide. So this is the username and this is the password. Now, as I have told you, let me show you exactly what is happening here. In our first test case, this is the username. Now this username will be passed to this value, this username variable, and then this username variable will be updated to this username, and using this username will be updated to this username, and then this is going to pass this username here, and using this command, this admin@yourstore.com will be printed here onto our first email address here, right here. So this is what actually is happening in our program right here. So these are the two test cases that I've written here. Let us write a third combination as well. So right now we have written right username, wrong password, wrong username, and right password. Let us say right username and empty pwd, empty password. So I can just write here the right username and empty password. So how we can write empty password? For writing empty password, we can write here dollar, and in curly braces I can just write in capital empty. So this is going to leave the space for password empty in this test case. So in this test case, right user is the right user that we are going to provide, and for empty password, this is going to leave the space for the password empty. So again, this will also give us the error, and this is going to be checked by this error message. Is there any error message present or not? If there is error message is present, then since we are checking for invalid values, invalid login, so this our test will be passed. Again, let's say for the fourth combination, in this case, what is the fourth combination? Empty user, but let's say write pwd. Again, for empty username, how I can write empty username? Dollar, in curly braces I'll write empty. So this is going to leave the username empty, and in a password I'm going to write the correct password, which is admin in this case. Then I'm going to write the fifth test case, the fifth possibility, the fifth combination, which is wrong username and wrong pwd, which is password. So again, I'm just going to copy the wrong username, and wrong password will be XYZ. So this way we have written multiple test cases. So this is what I meant regarding multiple test cases. So these are all test cases. So one test case, the second test case, the third, fourth, and the fifth test case. These are all the multiple test cases, and for each test case we have provided some value. So according to the specification of the test case, and each of this value will be fed to this username and password respectively, and this will be carrying the username and the password, and again this is going to click the login button, and then it will check for the error messages present or not. Since we are using this invalid login, we are only checking for the wrong possibilities that we are going to encounter in the page. Now we have done everything. This way we have completed our program The last thing that you want to remember, the last thing that you need to keep in mind, that in a settings section, we are going to again specify one more last command, which is test template. And why test template? Right now, without this test template, program doesn't know what to do. So it is going to import all these things and it is directly going to go to the test cases. But again, it is going to find an error because it doesn't know what to do. We have not linked this invalid keyword anywhere. So in this test case, I am going to provide this name of the test cases. Now the program knows what steps it need to perform onto this data entry here. So again, let's recap what we have done here. In our settings section, first of all, we have included a library, which is Selenium library. Then we have connected our resources file that we have created previously onto a previous video. Using this, we are going to use all the keywords that we have created in this resource file into our main DDT1.robot. Suit setup is for setting up browser once. Now what I meant by this is, since there are different test cases right here, every time this first test case is done and the second test case is being started, each of the time it is going to open the browser. So to prevent that, we use this suit setup, and this suit setup will set up the browser once in the first run, and then it is going to run all these test cases in the same browser instead of opening browser each test cases again and again. Then the suit teardown, what this suit teardown will do is this will close a browser using this command, this keyword right here, and after a test case is done, it is going to close the browser. Test template will tell the program what are the steps that we are going to perform. So these are the steps in the keyword section that we have told to the program to do. So it is going to take the two arguments. So it knows that there are two fields that are present onto a web page. The first one is the username and the password, and here are the username and the password. These are the username and the password, and this inputting username will input the username using this inputting username from the resource file. Then this inputting password will input the password using this keyword right here, inputting password in the resource file, and then it is going to click onto the login button using this click login button in the resource file, and then it is going to validate the error message that is going to come. So in the resource file, again this error message will be visible. Now every time it is going to pick the username from here to here, password from here to here, and it is going to pass the password and the username here, and it is going to perform all these steps. Again, for the second test as well, again it is going to perform this like this again and again. So we're going to perform the same test case again and again using multiple different datas. So this is exactly what we call data-driven testing. Now let us try executing this program and see if our program is running or not properly. So right now, let me show you here in the projects panel. Right now, I'll write here in the terminal robot. And since right now I'm not in the automation folder, I'm in the resources directory. So I am just going to write here resources and backslash and the name of the file. So DDT1.robot is the name of our file. And if I press enter, you will see it is going to open the browser. It is going to open it, and you can see it is going to again and again check for different test cases, as you can see here, and it is going to close the browser. And you saw that our test is passed. So 5 tests done. That are the 5 combinations here right here. These are all the 5 combinations here that we have performed. So 5 tests, all 5 are passed and 0 failed. So here, as you can see, 1 2 3 4 and 5, all the tests are passed. So right user wrong password is passed, wrong user right password passed, and similarly so on. So these are all the tests that we have passed. Now if you open the log file, I'll just open it into my browser in my Chrome. You will see suit setup, So this opened a browser, it has maximized the browser right here. Then it closed the browser once the test cases are completed. Then it tested for every test case. And everything that I have done here, everything is being using this resource file right here. So this was my main motto of creating this resource file, and this is what we call data driven testing from our own script. So this is our own script that we have created into the same directory as the main data driven testing robot file, and this is the resource file that we are using in this data driven testing file using all these steps, and this is what we call data driven testing. So this is everything that I wanted to show you about data driven testing. With this, we have come to a conclusion to this series of robot framework, and I hope that you have understood everything till now, whatever I have taught you in this series. And I really hope that you understood this program, this data driven testing program, because this is one of the most important things. This is one of the most common things that we do in our robot testing, in a robot framework job line, and this is one of the type of testing that we do using a robot framework. So I hope you understood what I wanted to say in this case, and if you have any doubts, just tell me in the comment section and I'll clear all your doubts in the comment section. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. So this is all about this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you like the video, and if you like it, then tell us in the comment section below. If you have any doubts, then post them in the comment section. I will definitely try to clear those doubts. Also, like, share and subscribe to our channel Coders Arcade and press the bell icon so that you will get a notification when we post our new video. Thank you. Happy learning.